I'd much rather be in Washington, Michigan than in Washington, D.C. right now.
The president's speech in Washington Township, Michigan last night.
Everyone else was in Washington, D.C.
Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's lies.
President Trump tweeted this. The White House Correspondents Center was a very big, boring bust.
North Korea, and a lot of good things are happening there.
What do you think President Trump had to do with it? I'll tell you what. Like, how about everything?
Members of the migrant caravan now illegally entering the U.S., sneaking in through a canyon notorious for drug and human smuggling.
President Trump said it best, we got to fix some of these corrupt laws.
Summer is almost here, so of course we built out our own summer camp on the plaza.
Hey, where's Rick? Are you playing bubble soccer over there? I'm over here. Is Rick winning? I'm looking. Oh, yeah. Look at that.
Let me show you how country feels.
You know who will not be doing that this morning?
Pretty impressive. Yeah.
Our own Griff Jenkins.
I am headed out right now.
You did that?
Yeah. I'm going up that wall.
Only on Fox and Friends, of course, are we talking politics and culture and summer camp.
Summer camp for kids.
Which we got a Fox and Friends summer camp out on the plaza. We're going to be out there with that group later
We've got
on in the
archery,
show.
we've got bubble soccer, as you can see right there. And this comes a day after we had dogs jumping into the pool, and then we thought it was a brilliant idea to have humans do it as well.
Yeah.
So Pete did it, and then Griff jumped in his suit and
Yep.
And he didn't
like
realize
Superman.
how shallow the water was, and so his shoulder went like this into the bottom. He came out like a champion with his arms in the air. The man's got a massive pain threshold, which is unbelievable.
completely dislocated your shoulder.
This is true, but nothing can keep me from being here on the couch with you guys because you're the best. And Mercedes Schlapp, who's joining us because there is so much news. Mercedes, good morning.
Good morning. I got to sign up all the 5 girls for summer camp, so thanks for reminding me.
There you go.
We will give you all the tips at the end of this show. Mercedes, just off the top, you were at the White House Correspondents' Dinner last night. Everyone this morning is talking about Michelle Wolf and how at one point she goes after Sarah Huckabee Sanders. I want to play this clip and then obviously want to get your reaction.
I'm a little starstruck. I love you as Aunt Lydia in The Handmaid's Tale. Pence, if you haven't seen it, you would love it. She burns facts, and then she uses that ash to create a perfect smoky eye. Like, maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's lies. I'm never really sure what to call Sarah Huckabee Sanders. You know, is it Sarah Sanders? Is it Sarah Huckabee Sanders? Is it Cousin Huckabee? Is it Auntie Huckabee Sanders? Like, what's Uncle Tom but for white women who disappoint other white women?
So, Mercedes, totally vile. We can all agree on that. Is this the moment that you walked out of the dinner?
Yes, Matt and I stood up at that point. I mean, you just felt as it was coming along, her speech, whether it would be about the abortion jokes or hitting and being very critical of Kellyanne, Ivanka, and then Sarah Sanders, who was up on the stage and just going after Sarah's looks, going after her job, making these false allegations. I mean, it was just so incredibly disrespectful. It was shameful. It was disgusting. And it's why these leftist comedians, that was like her deplorable moment. That's why you start to realize that, the president decided not to go to this dinner. And at the same time, it reminds us all why the president is honed in on these issues. And to go after these women, a woman going after these very talented women, I think was so incredibly offensive, especially when they're going after Sarah's looks and just even her job. I mean, it was something that we were just completely just floored. And that's when we decided we don't want to be part of this.
Well, good for you two for taking that stand amidst that in that packed room of the swamp. Well, somebody who knows a lot about this dinner is our own Ed Henry. He used to be the president of the White House Correspondents Association, hosted that dinner in 2013. He had some powerful comments like yours about what was said at that podium. Listen to Ed earlier in the program.
What happened to Sarah Sanders last night was disgusting, and I say that as a former president of the White House Correspondents Association. By the briefing tomorrow, I hope that the White House Correspondents Association, which I'm a card-carrying paid member of still, you guys should put out at least a statement, an apology to Sarah Sanders, who you work with professionally to go after her physical appearance, to say some of the things that happened. It obviously is so far beyond the line that I hope and pray the association apologizes to Sarah Sanders.
Mercedes, do you agree? Do they need to come out and make a statement on this?
Look, whether they apologize or they don't apologize, Sarah Sanders has thick skin. You know, she is one tough lady. I'm very honored to work with her and that team. And I have to say, I find it just to be so mean-spirited and disrespectful how she was treated. I mean, we have to think about, when you think of Sarah, when you think of Kellyanne, when you think of Ivanka, these women work day in and day out to help push the president's policies. And when the president's out in Washington, Michigan, talking about the issues that matter to the American people, the economy, defeating ISIS, securing the border, his results-oriented accomplishments, it's just so telling of why Americans feel, so many of them feel like that there is this sense of elitism, that there is this sense of disconnect from these comedians, from some of those in the leftist media that really do not understand where the heart and soul of Americans lie.
Mercedes, let me ask you, because Ed was also pointing out the fact that Sarah was the invited guest of the Correspondents Association up on that dais. That's why she's there, the invited guest, going in the president's steed, which makes these insults even more damning. Let me ask you this. Should the White House, the president now for the second year said, I'm going to do a rally, I'm not going to be there, I'm not going to dignify him with my appearance. Should the White House begin to start a conversation with the Correspondents Association saying, listen, we're not going to send guests like Sarah Sanders if they're going to be attacked this way?
Well, as you know, I mean, the press office, they work so closely with these reporters every day. I mean, Sarah, you know, talks to them. They have a relationship. You want to have a good working relationship with the press. That's important. But when you invite a comedian who is going to be so offensive and insult one of your guest of honors right on stage in front of millions of people, when you're talking about those watching the show, I mean, you just have to really ask yourself if it's worth even going to the event. You know, we were having a really wonderful time just having the conversations and engaging in dialogue with the different reporters. And then after the personal attack on the women in the White House, these talented women, it really makes you think, I mean, why be part of that? And so we were very discouraged. I feel at the end of the day, one of the things that we do, the trait that we all share, which is that of the trait of the president, is that we fight back. We're strong. We're united. We understand where we need to be focused on, which are the policies that matter to the American people. And if this so-called leftist comedian thinks that she was funny, it was just completely offensive, especially attacking conservative women and talking about abortion in a way that was appalling.
Yeah, women should stand up for other women. It stoops so low. If anything, Mercedes, it reminds us to be better, kinder, less judging people last night. Watching that, it was horrible. I think everyone across the board can agree with that. I want to get your thoughts before we let you go on the president's rally last night in Michigan. He talked about a number of issues, but of course the big news this week was North Korea, and for the first time Kim Jong-un stepping foot on South Korean soil since 1953, a historic moment. He talks about what led to getting to this point. Let's play a little bit of that.
Whatever happens, happens. Look, I may go in, may not work out, I leave. I'm not going to be a John Kerry who makes that horrible Iran deal. $1.8 billion in cash. You know what they got? They got nothing. So we're going to have, hopefully, a very successful negotiation over the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Mercedes, where does this go from here? What happens next?
Well, you know, clearly you're seeing President Trump's leadership on this issue of North Korea. He has been in constant communication with our allies, obviously working with the French president. He met with the German Chancellor Merkel, as well as speaking to President Moon from South Korea and the Japanese Prime Minister. This shows that President Trump is a coalition builder. He wants to ensure that we take the necessary steps to have a complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. We are starting to see some progress. With that being said, it is going to be the maximum pressure campaign that we will continue to implement to ensure that North Korea moves in that direction. Yes, they have halted in terms of production of a nuclear facility or building of a nuclear facility. Yes, they have stopped missile testing. But at the end of the day, this is just some of these steps that need to be taken. We're cautiously optimistic on where this is going to go with North Korea. But again, we're not going to render. We're going to ensure that we keep applying the maximum pressure campaign, which our international allies have supported, and I think we're seeing progress in the right direction.
Mercedes, the president mentioned John Kerry in the context of the Iran deal, but speak to the difference in approaches, because remember after the Paris attacks, John Kerry brought James Taylor to Paris to play the guitar for our allies to maybe make them feel a little bit better. That's a very different approach than fire and fury and bloody nose and the harsh, tough talk that actually makes diplomacy work. What drives the strategy for this president?
Well, I have to tell you, when you get Secretary Mike Pompeo, who literally got sworn in and jumped on a plane to go over to the Middle East to meet with the Saudi Arabian leaders and talk about the need of figuring out the difficulties that we're dealing with Iran, it's very telling. I think we have a very strong team in place. And again, we'll see what the president moves forward. I mean, we're not going to get ahead of the president in terms of his decision on the Iranian nuclear deal. But what he wants to see is a substantial fix in this deal. He recognizes that Iran continues to be a problem. They continue to fund terrorist groups. They continue to destabilize the Middle East region and obviously are a threat to Iran, to Israel. And so the key will be that we are going to look at this Iranian nuclear deal and say what is in the best interest of the United States.
Mercedes Schlapp, thanks for joining us, and for you and your husband for taking that stance last night.
Thanks for getting up so early.
Thank you, Mercedes.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good to see
Thank
you.
you.
All right, turning to some other headlines. And speaking of Mike Pompeo, just moments ago, he was arriving in Israel to meet with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The new Secretary of State discussing the Iran nuclear deal with Middle Eastern allies this morning. And Pompeo is now revealing more details on that meeting with Kim Jong-un.
We had a good conversation. He was very well prepared. I hope I matched that. We had a extensive conversation on the hardest issues that face our two countries. I had a clear mission statement from President Trump. When I left there, Kim Jong-un understood the mission.
The then CIA director making the trip over Easter weekend ahead of President Trump's meeting with Kim. Also this morning, a nationwide manhunt for an accused deputy killer is over. Authorities arresting this man, John Williams, with the fallen deputy's own handcuffs. Williams was found at a camp in Maine after a 4-day manhunt. He is expected to appear in court later this week. Police say the 29-year-old killer, Somerset County Sheriff's Corporal Eugene Cole, the 13-year department veteran, leaves behind a wife and 4 adult children. Well, the hero of the Waffle House shooting is stepping up in a big way yet again. James Shaw Jr. now raising more than $189,000 for the victims' families after he wrestled away the AR-15 from the shooter last week. Meanwhile, the first funerals have been held. Torian Sunderland and D'Ebony Grooves are the first of the 4 victims to be laid to rest in Tennessee. So sad. And the NFL draft is over, and the league has a new Mr. Irrelevant. SMU wide receiver Trey Quinn, chosen by the Washington Redskins with the last pick. Earlier, one-handed linebacker Shaquem Griffin from UCF was drafted by the Seattle Seahawks, reuniting him with his twin brother Shaquille. How cool is that? But the draft's biggest bust was not a player, it was a parrot. The bird was supposed to announce the Tampa Bay Bucks' 4th-round pick.
In the 2018 NFL Draft, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Jordan Whitehead.
Many fans giving Zaza the parrot an F draft grade, saying that she folds under pressure.
Not a good sign
is
for
a
the
bust.
Buccaneers this year. Yeah. Mr. Irrelevant, good luck. That's cool. Hey, at least you got drafted.
Don't pick on the bird.
He's not irrelevant anymore.
No, not at all. He's a
Now we know.
professional athlete now. All right, well, if he makes the team, which I hope he does. All right, President Trump holding Montana Senator Jon Tester accountable for his allegations about Ronnie Jackson.
Tester started throwing out things that he's heard. Well, I know things about Tester that I could say too.
If I said him, he'd never be elected again.
So in a state won by Trump, how vulnerable is Tester in the coming midterms? We'll break it down next.
And one university is now treating masculinity, note Pete, as a mental health issue.
UT?
Seriously? How that school is combating people like Pete.
It's a problem, a real.
Throwing out things that he's heard. Well, I know things about Tester that I could say too.
If I said him, he'd never be elected again.
President Trump slamming Montana Senator Jon Tester after the Secret Service disputed allegations against Ronnie Jackson. So in a state where Trump won 57% of the vote, just how vulnerable is Senator Tester in the midterm elections? Here to break it down, Deputy News Editor at Axios, Alexi McHammond. Hey, Alexi, how are you?
Hey, good morning. I'm good. Thank you for having me.
This is going to be a big race. What is your reaction to what has now clearly been a race that the president is going to put essentially a bullseye on Senator Tester's back?
Senator Tester is perhaps the most vulnerable Democratic senator in this 2018 election. I've reported on that for Axios. As you mentioned just now, Trump won his state of Montana by 20 points in 2016. Senator Tester's approval rating is a solid 52%, but compare that to Trump's 58% in the state, which is much higher than his national average, which suggests and shows that Montanans love the president. And, you know, Senator Tester is an interesting senator because although he is in a vulnerable position, he doesn't always act like it. He is the only red state Democratic senator who voted against Mike Pompeo as Secretary of State. And in January, he voted twice against the government funding bill. So I think we can fully expect Trump to sort of prioritize his Senate race and try to unseat him come November.
Now, Senator Tester is also weighing in, putting out a statement here where he says, it's my duty to make sure Montana veterans get what they need and have earned, and I'll never stop fighting for them as their senator. You know, Senator Tester, Alexei, only won the 2012 race by 4 points, and he's a moderate guy in the middle, trying to play both sides, sort of as you point out. But, you know, he had a really bad January, down 18 points. Is Tester going to be a race where Democrats begin to pull resources out and let him fend for his own?
I don't think we can expect that. I think, if anything, we will see Democrats sort of adding additional resources because they're seeing how the president is going to get involved. There are a couple of things that help Senator Tester. One is that he doesn't really have a strong, formidable Republican challenger. Ryan Zinke is obviously part of the administration now, and the state attorney general decided not to run. So I think until that happens, that could really help Tester in his favor. But I would expect Democrats would, if anything, add additional resources to help him.
We shall see, and it will be fun to follow your reporting on it. Alexei McHammond, thank you very much. Have a great rest of the Sunday.
You too.
All right, still ahead, the caravan of Central American migrants arriving at the border this afternoon. So how should the U.S. handle this? We'll find out. Plus, an anti-Trump comedian unleashing vile attacks as the host of last night's White House Correspondents' Dinner. Our next guest, a fellow comedian, says it wasn't a roast, it was being mean to people they don't like. Stay tuned.
Lines for you happening this week. Tomorrow, major Arizona school districts will remain closed as teachers walk out over pay and education funding. Those walkouts head into a second week. On Friday, Governor Doug Ducey reached a deal with lawmakers for a 20% pay raise for teachers by 2020, but still needs to address some of their other demands, like restoring state education funding. We'll see how long that standoff continues. And Tuesday, Fox News kicks off its midterm election series with a West Virginia Republican Senate debate. Congressman Evan Jenkins, State Attorney General Patrick Morrisey, and businessman Don Blankenship squaring off ahead of November's election. Bret Baier and Martha MacCallum will moderate the debate live on this channel, the Fox News channel, at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. It is once again election season upon us.
You can feel it. All right, well, the anti-Trump comedian making her point clear in her vile attacks last night as the host of last night's White House Correspondents' Dinner. Watch this.
A lot of people want Trump to be impeached. I do not. Because just when you think Trump is awful, you remember Mike Pence. You guys gotta stop putting Kellyanne on your shows. All she does is lie. We are graced with Sarah's presence tonight. I have to say, I'm a little starstruck. I love you as Aunt Lydia on The Handmaid's Tale.
Okay, well, fellow comedian Michael Loftus is the writer and producer behind Kevin Can Wait. He joins us now to react.
It's a great show. Great to have you on this morning.
Great show. You're the right guy to talk to. You know how to write jokes and deliver them. What do you make of last night?
It was horrible. It was just straight up horrible. The whole roast thing has gotten out of hand. It's not a gentle, you know, hey, we're both in the same business, I'm kind of making fun of you. It's like the personal attacks. It's vicious. It's not fun. It's not funny. I don't. Who blames Trump for not going? I don't. It's like being invited to a restaurant where you know you're going to get food poisoning. You know it for a fact. Why would you go?
Do you think this speaks to a broader problem we're seeing with comedy today? Rob Schneider, who I'm sure you know, he's an SNL alum, and he says that Saturday Night Live is ruining the joke by being so political. Well, here's what he says. He says the fun of SNL was always you never knew which way they leaned politically. You kind of assumed they would lean more left and liberal, but now the cat's out of the bag. They are completely against Trump, which I think makes it less interesting because you know the direction the piece is going. It is so predictable, to his point. Do you agree with that?
I agree with it 110%. I don't know, Rob. It's like you're watching the same joke over and over and over again. There's zero surprise. Leave it to the writers of SNL to like ruin a knock-knock joke. Like, knock, knock, who's there? Alec Baldwin, and he hates Trump. It's the same thing. It's predictable and bad. A million years ago, Phil Hartman did a skit where he was Ronald Reagan, and he portrayed Reagan as the smartest man on the planet with unlimited energy. It was hilarious. You need an element of surprise, or it's just not funny. Then it's just a personal attack, and it's boring, and it's a yawn fest.
Mike, let me take you just quickly into the writing part of this, because when it came to Michelle Wolf's speech, is it your sense that they wrote with a real intent to express the hatred and the vitriol that came out of that they didn't try and write something that would be funny and edgy, but actually hateful?
They're writing for their friends is what they're doing.
Yes.
Today, I'm sure the girl who hosted, I don't even know her. I don't know her name. She's going to go to her friends. I said it. I did the joke, and Sarah was right there. It doesn't matter if it's funny. They're not going to entertain. She's not even trying to entertain anybody. She's got an agenda. She wanted to hurt people's feelings. She wanted to plant her flag on Mount Hurt a lot and brag about it the next day. It's boring and it's sad, and it's not the spirit in which it's supposed to be. A roast is, everybody's supposed to have a good time at the roast, and sadly those days are over.
Well, it's
just you want to smack the other person down and have an agenda.
It's exactly right. I mean, we understand the bias, but it's, as you said, predictable and boring, which is the exact opposite of President Trump at Washington Township in Michigan. Totally unpredictable, but interesting because you never know where he's going to go next. Why can't comedy maybe learn from Trump? I don't know.
I don't know, but I have more fun watching a Trump rally than I did the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Trump he's a better comic.
I know he is.
No, it's a great point. Michael Loftus, thanks for being with us, and keep doing your show because it makes us laugh. We need just some refreshing comedy today.
Great stuff.
Good to see.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Hey, we're doing what we can. We have a good time. Thanks, you guys.
Awesome.
Thanks, Michael. Wait, you got it. All right, well, President Trump taking his message straight to the people, touting his tax cuts and all of the economic gains since he took office. Maria Bartiromo joins us next to talk about where the economy can go from here.
And you won't want to miss this one. A Texas teen leaves her date speechless, greeting him by walking for the first time in 10 months. This is some incredible video coming in. We're going to explain all of that to you coming up. That is so sweet.
I think we deliver real, honest, strong opinion day after day, night after night on Fox, and the viewers expect that. They know with me they're going to get a straight shooter, no holds barred. I'm not going to cut people slack, but I'll also be fair. It's a place where we have real debate, and we really respect the traditions that made this country great.
To get to the poll, and we have some great people running. How have you done with the tax cuts, by the way? Okay. And not only the tax cuts, the jobs that have been created. The jobs. Let me tell you, our country is doing great. You know, the stock market, which is not really the all-time indicator, because the country's actually doing much better than the stock market, but the stock market is up almost 35% since the election.
That was President Trump last night in Michigan for one of his infamous President Trump rallies. We want to bring in Maria Bartiromo, host of Sunday Morning Futures, out in L.A. It's early there, Maria.
And we miss you.
It is, guys. It's great to see you this morning. The president's right, Abby. You know it. We all know it. We're talking about profit growth. We're right now in the middle of the first quarter earnings reporting season. We're talking about profit growth of 19%. 19% year over year is a huge number for S&P 500 profits. That's what we're looking at for the first quarter. Overall economic growth about 3% or 2.7% is what's expected for the year 2018. And you are seeing this employment employment situation almost at full employment. So between the tax cut plan, between the regulation rollback, those two policies coming out of the Trump administration, as well as just the recovery from the bottom, we're looking at a pretty good economy right now. And we get the jobs number out next Friday. It's probably going to be a good number.
Maria, the president also talked about China and our trade relationship with them. He said, hey, China puts China first. I put America first. He said, I don't want an out-and-out trade war, but we might feel a little bit of pain in the short term for the betterment in the long term. Where's that relationship going?
Pete, that is exactly what's happening right now. The reason that I'm here in L.A. is I've got an exclusive interview today with Steven Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary. That's going to be on tomorrow, first thing in the morning, on Mornings with Maria on the Fox Business Network. And he is giving me his interview, his last interview before going to China. And what's happening now, everybody I've spoken with, these China experts that I speak with, from Hank Greenberg from CV Star to several others, say the same thing to me. And that is Steve Schwarzman from Blackstone Group. Say the same thing, that China is going to make some changes. They know that they cannot enjoy what they've enjoyed for the last couple of decades any longer. Things are going to change. So my prediction, the $375 billion trade deficit with China goes down, perhaps by $100 billion, $275, and China is going to be moving their markets. They are going to be opening the markets more for foreigners, in particular for American companies. You know that when you go to China right now, you cannot, and if you want to sell to the 1.3 billion person population, there are 10 industries that are deemed off limits that you will not get a foothold at all. And even if you do get a foothold, you'll be